Interested in the paranormal from a very young age, Eric Mintel has led Eric Mintel Investigates since 2016, seeking out strange stories to share with his audiences, be they about ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, or dogmen. But for more than 20 years, Eric has been an acclaimed jazz musician, and his group, the Eric Mintel Quintet, have played everywhere. But most nights he investigates the paranormal. Mintel was invited to perform twice at the White House, in 1968 at the request of President Clinton, and in 2011 at the request of President Obama. He has also been invited to perform at the Kennedy Center on more than 10 occasions. He has toured and performed all over the country in concert halls, high schools, libraries, elementary schools, churches, jazz clubs, and many more venues. A consummate professional in front of the camera, he has also had many stories written up about his paranormal activities by numerous newspapers and has been featured on radio stations and podcasts across the country and around the world. Fans of his music have eagerly followed him into the paranormal world, and I'll bet vice versa. On many an investigation, Eric and his team have captured groundbreaking footage and captured strange paranormal activity rarely gotten on camera before. And I think that's the end of the introduction. Please give a big hand to Eric Mintel. Thank you, buddy.
Get on fire.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it, buddy.
Thank you so much. You know, that intro, can I even go on now? My God. But not 1968, it was 1998. I was about a year old. But Peter, thank you so much. You know, this is a first time here, and I want to thank Peter so much for putting my name in the hat to be able to come here and speak to you guys. And, you know, I've always loved the paranormal, and as Peter just said, most of my life has been a jazz musician for like the last 31 years, and have had an enormous success. And it's funny, because we'll be doing concerts, and people will like, we love your paranormal show. So it's a great crossover, and it's amazing. But little background, just real quick on me, just for those of you who may be seeing me for the first time. So jazz musician most of my life, come to you from the Bucks County, Pennsylvania area. There you go. We got some hometown people here. And I mean, Bucks County is completely like the paranormal there, and the paranormal activity is just through the roof. A lot of ties to the Underground Railroad. You know, you had Washington cross the Delaware. Washington, you know, visited a lot of these sites in Bucks County. So there's a lot of ties to the Underground Railroad. So there's a lot of really cool things there. So most of my life has been jazz, but always loved the paranormal. My father would tell me stories, UFO sightings, ghost stories that he's encountered. And I just grew up with that. Being an only child, I grew up with all of these incredible stories. So in 2016, I was watching a lot, and I've always been a filmmaker, so always loved editing and whatnot, but I was watching a lot of these paranormal shows, and I'm like, I can do that. I can do something like that. So I started, it was originally called Bucks County Paranormal Investigations, but I quickly changed it to Eric Mintel Investigates because people were wanting us to come to their locations all over the country. Bed and breakfasts, inns, restaurants, cryptids, Bigfoot, Dogman. So it's been incredible. So I started it was Eric Mintel Investigates, and it's just been phenomenal. And here I am today talking to great people like you we've all had those experiences, you know, and we're all trying to figure out what is the truth, you know, what's the answer. And a lot of times we leave these investigations with more questions than answers, but I think we're getting closer with a lot of things. And here we are, we're like, would we even be here talking about this like 10, 15 years ago? I think we're in a really great environment where people are open now. The government's saying, hey folks, the UFOs that you're seeing all these years are real, we just don't know what they are. And people are coming forward, and it's really great to see. And we've had people that you'll see in these clips that have come forward about their sightings and their encounters. So I want to start out, I'm just trying to see if I forgot anything. I just want to say also my beautiful fiance is with me here, Sherry. Thank you so much for traveling with me. And that's a whole nother story in itself, I just released my first book. It's called Mintel Investigates. You could get it after my talk here. The first thing I want to talk about is the Beast of Bray Road. Has anyone ever heard of that creature? Okay. It's called the Beast of Bray Road. Okay. So basically what that is, it's supposed to be an upright canine dogman werewolf type creature that's been seen walking on two legs. And primarily in the area of Elkhorn, Wisconsin. So it's been seen for years. It goes back to the 1930s. But then it came back into prominence back in the 90s with Linda Godfrey, who is a great author that wrote a lot of books about it because people were seeing this creature. And there was a number of years that it wasn't talked about. And I think it was not talked about just because of the stigmata at that time. People didn't want to even talk about it. So I guess it was 2020, I was watching a program, and we were all inside during COVID, so we weren't going anywhere. And I was watching all these paranormal shows, and I saw this show, and it was Paranormal Declassified, I think it was, and they were doing a segment on the Beast of Bray Road. And this gentleman, Lee Hample, who has this incredible farm in Elkhorn, Wisconsin, which is only about 0.2 of a mile from Bray Road, who's had all of this incredible activity going on. Eye shine, screams, howls, hair samples, photos. He's got thousands and thousands of photos of this thing, which very, very strange stuff, which you'll see. So let's play the little clip. Here's some evidence here. You could stop it right there for a sec. This is a track that he found on his property. It's a 5-toed or 5-pad, I think it's 7-pad, 5-toed track, which is nothing like that can make that kind of a track. And he found a number of these. In 2014, he bought this farm from his mother's estate, and his neighbors go, oh yeah, by the way, Lee, the creature's on your property, did you know that? He's like, what? And he didn't have any interest in the paranormal at all. He was a school teacher. He was like 35 years school teacher I think an English and math teacher in the Wakanda, Illinois school system. So he had no interest in the paranormal whatsoever until 2014 when he had his own encounter and he saw these red glowing eyes staring back at him when he was backing out of his driveway, and he saw this thing jump 15 feet in the air and it disappeared. So that began for him putting these trail cams out into the field and seeing what is going on his property. We could keep going now and see. Right here, you could stop it too. There were strange UFO lights in the woods behind the field. So the field is right here, and he took with a night scope all of these lights going through the woods. We went over to these woods after the initial investigation, because all the corn was up when we were there initially. But we went over to those woods because I thought maybe it was, and I'm always trying to debunk these things. I'm always trying to say, what's really going on here? But we went over to those woods, and I thought there were maybe four-wheelers or something that could be going through there making those lights. But the woods are so thick and dense, there's no way. But play that again for them, and you could see what's going on here. They're just traveling right through the woods here. Now, right here, you could stop it right here. Lee's been getting these really crazy mists that have been coming into these trail cams, where it's a mist that is almost obscuring Lee. And there's another picture here too. Thank you. And this is Gabe, by the way. Thank you so much, Gabe. You're awesome, man. You saved my life. Where you stop it right there. So there's a picture here of this really weird mist that Lee keeps getting, like right here on this side. And there's a roadkill deer. Now, this is an area called the bait area that Lee has designated this bait area where he's getting a lot of this activity. The picture's not here that Lee is keeping close to the vest, but I was able to get this one. But there's another picture. Right after this picture, the mist is gone and so's the deer. And these pictures are only 30 seconds timed apart. So, we don't know what that is. And just, you could hit the next one. Then look at this track. That was a guy, another guy, witness, Dave Pavlatos in Elkhorn, who was getting his boat out of his boat dock in Elkhorn, and just happened to look down and saw this track, and he put his hand there just to kind of give you a size comparison. So, I'm like, what is going on here? So I wound up reaching out to Lee after I saw this program, and I figured, he looked like he was pretty approachable. I could just talk to him. So this was December of 2020, and I called him up that night after I saw the program. We were on the phone for like 2 hours, just talking about all of his research, what he's captured. And I said, well, Lee, could we do an investigation on your property? He's like, absolutely, please do. So it wasn't until October of 2021 that we did finally get out there. And a good friend and fan of ours, Ellen Collins, she really loves what we do. She had said to me, and we were thinking about this anyway, but she said, you guys should do a video on the Beast of Bray Road. I said, I would love to do that, but how are we gonna get out there? Because we're in Pennsylvania, and who's gonna edit it and all that? Because I usually do all the editing. But she paid the freight to have this done. So I made her like an executive producer for it, and she's phenomenal. So we're always forever in her debt. But let's play the first thing here. And we might have to stop it again. Okay, you could hit it again and hit it one more time. Okay, right here you could stop. So we go out to the field, October 3rd of 2021. And this is if you could picture this, it's a 35-acre hayfield. So it takes a while from Lee's property. It's a half a mile to get down there. So we got on four-wheelers and went down to the bait area. And we thought we'd have to actually scrub the whole investigation because it looked like it was gonna rain. And so as soon as we get out to the field and get out to that area, it was like clear as a bell over where we were. And Dominic, so who was with me on the investigation was me, my spirit medium, high school friend, Dominic Sattel, who this was completely out of his wheelhouse as far as a spirit medium. He's like, what did you drag me into? And then Ellen was on it, and Ellen's son, Scott, was our cameraman, who was like a rock with these things, with what happened next. So we get off the four-wheelers, and Dominic looks up and goes, what the hell is that? And we look up, and this is what we see. So we saw there was a solid orb of light right there, and that's just Scott trying to get it with the camera. But that's a solid orb, and then you could see planes on either side of it, on the bottom of it, which you could see flashing. And then it does a 45-degree angle and blinks out. Watch, you'll see. It was just go slowly, and then disappeared. You could stop it right there. So, and then it just disappeared. And we looked later on to see if it was like a satellite or a space station or anything like that, and it wasn't anything like that. I encourage you to go check out my YouTube channel. It's Eric Mintel Investigates. Watch this again. All of the evidence is here, and you could see it really for yourselves, because you could see a lot of planes in the bottom of that. And it was weird. It was just so weird. And it made no sound. And this is what happened next. So right after the UFOs, we hear, I guess it doesn't go any louder than that, is it? Oh, you did? Okay, great, because this has to go a little bit louder if you can turn it way up. Oh, that'd be great. We hear something right after this in the distance. A howl is in the distance, like far in the distance. And Dominic and I are looking at each other, and then we hear another howl closer to us. And then this is what happened here, and I'll play it, and then I'll talk about it afterward. There's the one. There's two.
Are you hearing this howl? Oh shit.
So seriously. Okay, stop it right there for a sec. And I played that again for another, a couple of times through. But it's so hard to describe, but it was like on site. It was so much louder. We had little lavalier microphones, and I know you guys will know what that is. There were small mics, and it was just so loud on site that sound was able to be picked up by this small mic. We didn't have any kind of high-tech audio. And a day before, I had talked to a state worker out there who had this encounter with this thing, and he said he heard what it sounded just like that, which was he said it was like a wild pig sound. He said it was like a wild pig with something else that didn't pitch. So it wasn't a coyote, it wasn't a wolf, it wasn't a fox, owl, nothing like that. Because we went for months afterward, we tried to figure out what this thing was, and we could not mash it up with anything. But it was this low, guttural, scream, growl, yell combination that I felt it sounded like a man screaming in this field that we were in. And it just didn't pitch, it just kept going. And we could play that again.
Oh shit. Oh shit.
Again, so right there. So, the fear factor was there. It was like, what are we hearing? What is this? And we still didn't know. And it was funny because Ellen had this really weird dream. And somebody just shared with me another type of situation here, but about this thing, and I'll go into that a little later. So we hear this howl, and then the third thing that happened, I didn't put it on here, but you could see it in the video. There was a really weird mist that came up from the field that we were in right after we heard this. And it was messing with our audio. It wasn't messing with the video, but it was messing with the audio. And then we kept hearing all of this rustling sound going on behind us, and there was no wind. It was completely still. So Dominic says to Scott, can you shine the light over to where we heard the howls in the corn? If you could picture this, the field is like a big rectangle, and it's a 35-acre hayfield. So on either side is corn, 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 and we're in the area where the hay would be, but all the hay was down, so that was all flat. So we're standing there by this bait area. Scott shines the light over to where we heard the howls, and this is what we saw too.
I'm hearing rustling over there.
And it's too bad that it's not that dark in here. I guess we can't shut the lights. But there's eye shine right there of the creature. We saw eye shine 6 feet up in the corn going like this, back and forth. And we have no idea what it was. But it was something there. It was big. It was big. So this is us now back at the hotel wrapping our heads around what happened.
And the one was moving closer. The second howl was much closer, so they were moving in on us.
Just to hear that howl. Yeah, that was a correct. That's a paranormal activity. We did it all tonight.
I did it all within as soon as we walked down, like 10 minutes, within 10 minutes.
And I feel and sense things, but I don't get freaked out by that. This freaked the hell out. Yeah, you and me both, bro. So hey, listen.
So we were really jumped up about the whole thing.
Against Scott, it's phenomenal. Let's go get some rest. Oh, right.
Okay, you could stop it right there. What's the next one? You could just hit it a little bit more. I would just want to. Okay, so Scott, he was a rock with the camera, and it was crazy too. And I'm so sorry we didn't get this on video. But during the day, when we did some reconnaissance out into the field where Lee is showing us where all this activities happen, Scott he builds these really beautiful high-end drones. And he was watching us go over the field into this area through his drone. And all of a sudden, we disappeared off of he has to wear virtual reality glasses. I'm sure you guys know some of these things where you have to wear these virtual reality glasses for a lot of these drones. Well, in this instance, we completely disappeared off of Scott's screen digitally in his goggles. I mean, we were still there. He lifted it up, but somehow, digitally, we disappeared. And so that was a weird thing. And then we're talking about portals. We're talking about, like, could this thing be interdimensional? Could this thing be coming in and out of our reality? So as out as that sounds, that's some kind of possibility you have to look at, because it's like with Bigfoot. You know, people have Bigfoot sightings. It's there and then it's gone. It's like, where is it going? I always try to compare it to a deer. You know how a deer really blends into its environment? It's there and you could barely see it. But Lee has pictures, and it's amazing. He's got these hair samples that, under the microscope, are translucent. And there's no medulla in there. And it's so weird. And I'm thinking to myself, could these things be cloaking themselves? And that's why he's not able to get a really good picture of this thing. So that was the Beast of Bray Road. So that was number one. Now, let's switch gears, and let's go to UFOs. So I want to say this started in 2021 as well. I had been getting a lot of reports from people of UFOs over where we are in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. People were seeing this low-flying, brightly lit object, multiple lights, silent, hovering, drawing what they're seeing and sending it to me. So a woman reached out to me. I don't know if we could turn off the lights or anything to see. I guess probably not, right? Because there's a little bit of, I don't know if this is going to be good or not, but Oh, yeah. Well, again, you could go back and look at this video too on my YouTube page. But so a woman, Leslie, sent me a message and said, I have some video that I caught of UFOs over what's called Peace Valley Park. We have a beautiful park by us, beautiful lake. And she captured these UFOs over this lake. And there was it's hard to see, but she had all these white lights. And you could see, can you see them sparkling? And she's trying to wrap her head around what this is. Oh yeah, there's at least 30 or 40 of those things out there. And at first, you could stop over here. Yeah, that's good. At first, I thought, well, is she seeing the Starlink satellites? Because they could be mistaken sometimes for UFOs. But these were in different arrays. They were all in different levels. They weren't in a straight line. And they were hovering there. They weren't moving. They were just hovering and blinking. Then a gentleman, Mitch Sherman, this is why I love these people that come up and on camera and they're not afraid to talk about this stuff. And again, we're in an environment that people can, feel free to talk about this. And look, some people can't too, but some people do, they don't mind. But Mitch made sure he wanted to tell his story. So he contacted me and said, look, the last couple of years, we've been getting this really weird UFO light, whatever it is, going across the sky in my backyard. And I said, well, do you have video of it? He's like, do I have video of it? Yes. And I said, so we went up there and met with Mitch and his wife, Robin. And this was incredible. So this is what occurred here for this one. I'll talk about it afterward.
No, it's more like a giant orb with varying colors and pulses of light.
Wow, you had told me, Robin, you had a similar situation where it was kind of like something that really kind of came right up to you.
So you could stop it right there for a sec. Robin, if you could hear that, you probably can't hear that too well. Robin, his wife. So first of all, that UFO has been going over his house. And we're looking at it, it's not a planet, it's not a star, because it's completely you can see there's no stars there. So Robin, when this occurred, Robin said that a shaft of light, I don't know if anybody here has had this experience, but she said a shaft of light the size of her finger came up to her face and was looking at her. It was like an orb, shaft of light, but in an oblong orb, looking at her, and then it shot off really fast. She was trying to get a hold of Mitch. He was too late to come out and see it, but it was there. And the weird connection with Elkhorn is that we're also getting, Lee's been getting shafts of light out there in the field as well. And you would think light, it continues, it goes right to the ground. These are shafts of light that aren't even going to the ground, they're just there in the air. So I'm thinking to myself, could this thing be scanning her? Is it like looking at her? What is it? Is it some kind of a consciousness, otherworldly type thing? I don't know. That's when you leave a lot of these things and you have a lot more questions than you do answers. And another reason why I love this, and it's so fascinating. But, so yeah, you could play that, and then you could tell, Robin will tell her story.
And Richard wanted the house, and I'm looking up there, and I never here, I see, it just kind of my finger that started, it came from way over there, and it just came right at me, and right up to me, and I was yelling for Mitch to come out, and, you know, it was right here, and all of a sudden, it
Just like that. Then I got video of, and I don't know why, but have you noticed that all of these UFOs are always in some kind of triangular formation? And this is a video, you could play this while I talk here. This is a video in Newtown, Pennsylvania, which you could see right here, 1, 2, 3, and they were going slowly over, and then one by one just disappeared. And no sound either. These are just the cars down here below. But that just disappeared. And then this next one right here, we could play this too. This was in Doylestown. A nurse contacted me from Doylestown Hospital. She was looking out the window on her break, and she sees in the middle of the day and sees these 3 lights just hovering there. And then as she's videotaping it, you could see they kind of go into a straight line. So the one up on top starts going over that way. And very, very strange. And I thought it was maybe, you see sometimes those ice crystals that come into our atmosphere that could be maybe something that you could misinterpret as a UFO. But it wasn't that, because they were just there. They were just hovering there. So she was still perplexed by it, and we're still trying to figure out what it is. Yeah, it was nothing like that. Yep.
Do you consider it to be multiple grounds or possibly one ground?
You could stop it right there, buddy. Probably multiple. I would think multiple. I mean, it just seems weird that a lot of these pictures, you have these 3 points of light. And there's been a lot of reports. Has anyone had that encounter with a triangular UFO? Or 3 points of light? Have you seen those? Okay.
I've worked on a case actually up in the White Mountains by Mount Washington. Someone I knew had watched something triangular shape, 3 points of light, came over Mount Madison, turned, flew over Mount Washington, zipped right across the sky in a southeast, southwesterly direction.
Yep. I believe you, because we get a lot of reports like that. So, it's just perplexing. What is the next one here? You could just keep going there. These are just some clips that I brought with me today, because I wanted to show you a lot of the cases that we've been on, a lot of the cases I talk about in my book. And you could keep going. Oh yeah, there we go. Oh, and this one, check this out. Tony, we were talking about the orbs of light. Yeah. These are the red orbs. UFOs over Louisiana. I got this back in February. There's just not one. There's a whole fleet of these things. Check this out. And this woman is completely a skeptic. Now she's a believer.
It's very similar to what I saw in the Exeter.
Check this out. They keep coming. And they're just going and going. And you can't see it here with this light, but they're red. And I mean, there's a whole fleet. There's a whole fleet of these things. And then you could see, as this is about a minute video, as it keeps going, you could see they start disappearing one by one. And they keep coming. I mean, there's just more coming. And you could hear these guys on the video going, what the hell is this? They don't know. Look. And again, they just happen to be out at the right place at the right time to get this. and it just keeps going. And she went and panned over to get some of the other ones. You know, I don't know. That's a good question. It just seems like it's like, from this distance, okay, so you could stop it there. From that distance, you could say maybe, I don't know, 25 feet, 30 feet, maybe in length. I don't know. That's the hardest part of this, is trying to get those calculations. That's where there's a lot of really great science looked into this as well. You know, not just saying, oh, it's a UFO, but what is it? You know, could it be lights? I mean, me and Sherry, we had or Sherry and I, we had a phenomenal UFO encounter back in 2016, in February of 2016. Same kind of thing. We were going over this bridge into New Jersey, into Stockton, New Jersey, and she had rented a farmhouse at the time. So we were heading over there, and we were going over this bridge in an area called Center Bridge, which is right outside of New Hope, for the Bucks County people, if you guys know New Hope. So we're going over the bridge, and all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I see 5 orange orbs just came out of nowhere. And it looked like swirling lava. It looked like just red, like, I didn't know what it was, but it looked like it was just coming into the atmosphere. And I'm looking at this thing, Sherry's looking at it. I'm trying to take my phone out to try to take a picture, and of course the flash goes off in the car. And so couldn't do that. And I was able to get one shot. But now I see why people can't get pictures, because you have like a 5-second window to get any of these things. So anyway, I was able to get one shot, but one by one, they just disappeared, one by one. It was the weirdest thing. And then about a week later, I was on a jazz gig somewhere, and Sherry's at the farmhouse, and all of a sudden something brought her attention to the window. And remember that show, remember Mitch Miller, Follow the Bouncing Ball, well, she said, in the farmhouse, in front of the farmhouse is a big wheat field, and then there's the road. So it may be about 800 feet or so from the road, but there's a big wheat field. There was a ball of light coming down into the wheat field like that, and then shot away. So who knows? I wish I was there to see. But so it's fascinating. So that was the UFOs that we covered in Bucks County, but I mean, Elkhorn, all over the place. I mean, there's things going on all the time, and we're still looking into it, and we're just getting started. Gonna switch gears now. Who's a Bigfoot believer here? All right, cool. So, who knows what Bigfoot is? Does anybody have a description? Well, from you guys, yeah. I mean, you're in one of the experts too. What would be your description?
My analysis and from what I know, it is a hominid or form of human that shares roughly 98% of the same genetics we do.
Yep. And that's it. I would say that same thing because look at the Patterson-Gimlin film, right? You know, that film that was shot in 1967, where the Bigfoot's walking away? That's the classic footage. Those guys were just in the right place at the right time to get that thing. Because it couldn't have been anybody in a suit. Because it's been disproven. Because you look at all the muscle structure in the creature. And nobody had any kind of makeup like that back then. I think they did an analysis with the Planet of the Apes, which just came out around that time in 1968. And if you look at that Planet of the Apes, they did. I think it's in number 2. They have the ape there in an ape costume. It looks nothing like any. It just looks like he's wearing a carpet, So it was amazing. But so switching gears here, we did an investigation of Bigfoot, believe it or not, in the New Jersey Pine Barrens. And do anybody hear of the Pine Barrens before? Okay. Remember, what was it that film that was shot years ago? It was like the Blair Witch Project. Yes, it was down. Thank you. And it was in the Pine Barrens. Well, the Pine Barrens is just thousands and thousands of acres of just dense forest that, it's amazing, and no one's there. I mean, you can't even build houses on it. It's just the soil's bad. So. Good friends of mine, Eric Spinner and Art Mack, they're Bigfoot researchers in New Jersey, in the Medford, New Jersey area. Eric said, look, we should do a Bigfoot investigation. I'm getting a lot of reports down here of juvenile Bigfoot that are seen going into these neighborhoods, getting the garbage out of people's garbage and going back into the woods on two legs. These people are seeing these things on two legs, and it's not bears, it's not people. So, and they're coming in and out of these neighborhoods. So, and then there's people are seeing these things crossing the road, and it happens like that. So it's hard to get, any kind of video evidence or anything. It's just happening. So I said, I would love to do this. I would love to do an investigation. So we went back to, this was a week after we came back from Elkhorn. It was October 11th of 2021. And we went to this area called the Bowl. And it just sounds like, it sounds like a bowl. It's like high on the sides and low in the middle. And it's like this. And we were about 5 miles into the Pine Barrens. And then we stopped, parked the truck, went about 600 yards in and set up base camp in this area called the Bowl. So we're there, and I mean, it's dead quiet. I tried to get Sherry to go with us, but she didn't want to go. She was out. But so it's completely quiet, and the only thing we had was night vision. And I made a point of, and you'll see it in the video too, when you watch the entire video, I turned off the night vision to see where we were, what it looked like. It was completely pitch black. We only had like a sliver of the moon. So we're down there, and guys, I gotta tell you, within 20 minutes, stuff happens all the time. And I always blame it on Dominic, because he's our spirit medium. I think he's a magnet for these things, because every time we're on an investigation, something's happening. So we're down there, and we're sitting in base camp, and Art and Eric are talking about their protocols, how they go about their research, tree knocks, how they search for footprints, hair samples, all kinds of stuff. And as we're sitting there, we hear a whoop coming from the woods behind us. And I have to say, and this is no disrespect to any of the Bigfoot researchers here or anything, whenever I see those shows on TV, and they're whooping and hollering for Bigfoot, I'm always like, I had to laugh, because I'm like, is that what they really sound like? And I'll be damned if that's not what we heard. And I was like, what? So it changed my whole perspective on the entire, on that cryptid. So right away, Eric had high-powered video, or high-powered audio going, and he was able to hear this whoop. And I want to play for you before I say anything. This is what we heard. Can you turn this way up? Yeah, you got a lot more. There you go. Thank you, buddy.
Like any creature in the woods,
It was at this point we had to cut Art's interview short. We all collectively heard a whoop coming from the woods. Eric's high-powered microphones picked it up.
Yes, like any creature in the woods, like any creature in the woods,
Eric's wife, Heather, decided to answer back and was getting vocalizations. They were having a conversation. That was the thing. You could stop it. That was the thing that was answering her back. And it was the weirdest thing. That was her. That was the first whoop, was her. But it was. Can you go back to that? Maybe a little, scrub it back a little bit. There you go. Thank you. Eric's wife, Heather, decided to answer back and was getting vocalizations. They were having a conversation. I'm like, what? What? So, okay, you can play the rest of this, because you could see my reaction too. Miles into the Pine Barrens.
Okay, that clip was actually okay, so we're getting this sound and juvenile. So we just got some unbelievable activity right now. Don was just talking about it, and we heard some.
we hear another one. But it was Heather. So there you go. Stop that right there. All right. So that was crazy. That was a crazy, crazy night. And And look, you know, you've got to have a little bit of humor when you're doing these because we're putting ourselves in crazy situations, you know, we're putting ourselves kind of in, you know, harm's way. Even with the Beast of Bray Road, I didn't even know what that was. Who knows if it could have come out and gotten us. A lot of people were like, well, did you protect yourselves? I'm like, no, only because I didn't think we were going to see anything. I thought we were just going to get a great documentary, we were going to talk to some great people, never thinking once that we'd actually encounter this thing. So that was my stupidity. So next time, we're going to be a little bit more protected. And even with this Bigfoot and the Pine Barrens. So can you scrub that back just about maybe a couple of seconds? Thanks, Gabe. All right, so you could play it here and I'll explain. So we're going to switch gears to the ghost situations now. And you can stop it right there, Gabe. So in the ghost investigations that we've been doing, these are probably the most skeptical ones that I do because I really want to see what is really going on out there. What are people seeing? What are people hearing? And I'm a little bit more skeptical when it comes to that. But having said that, and having captured what we've actually captured on video, I'm a real firm believer that there is a very thin veil from here to there. And you know, at the end of the day, people are seeing something and they're experiencing something. And in our research with the spirit world, I think there are people, and I don't know if some of you will agree or not, but I think there's some people that are picked to experience these things, whether it's ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, whatever. Maybe their antenna is more attuned to these situations. I don't know. But it seems to be that way. And the other thing is maybe it's generational. Maybe they've had these experiences in family lineages, you know? And so that's something that we're looking at as well. And we're also doing experiments. Well, they're doing experiments now on light spectrum. Because why can you see more things with night vision than you can with regular video? So there's something to it as well, because we're always getting orbs, shadow figures, all kinds of weird things. So we did an investigation at this place in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. It's called the Hanoverville Roadhouse. Great place. Owner's great. He loves the paranormal, but he bought this place. It was a complete wreck, and refurbished it to this beautiful place. And believe it or not, Tiny Tim used to perform there. Who knew? So, and you guys know Tiny Tim, Tiptoe Through the Tulips. So I'm not going to sing it. So we did this investigation, man. It was unbelievable. So Mark, the owner, and I want to preface this by saying, Mark took these videos off of he was videotaping on his phone to his computer screen. So if it's a little wonky, that's why. Because I want to also say, my team is all about truth-based investigating. We're not doing anything hokey. We're not using spirit boxes, REM pods, anything like that. We'll use a magnetometer and Dominic, you know, in our spirit mediums, either Dominic or Julie Krause. And Julie's a psychic medium and Dominic is a spirit medium. But Mark sent me this video from his security camera footage. Check this out. Okay, so that was the first video. I'm like, what? What is going on here? And we could play the rest of this and I'll talk about it after that.
In this video, you could clearly see an orb flying over toward where the chair just pushed out from the table. Seconds later, some unknown force hurls the sugar container onto the floor. Truly a paranormal event caught on video.
Okay, right there, you can stop. So I went into this I tried to debunk the thing. I'm like, okay, what's going on here? There's got to be somebody back there that's pushing the chair or, you know, that's throwing the thing out. Well, if you could see on at the end of that video, there's a wall that's built out on the bottom, and there's no way that anybody could hide back there because that wall goes all the way to the back of the wall. This little low wall goes all the way back to the other wall, and you'd be seen on his security camera. So if anyone's back there, you're definitely seen. So that was something that was really, really interesting. I think the next thing, let me see if this is the attic. Oh no, that's the winery. I don't think I put that in here. But there's another part of this video. If you can check it out on my YouTube channel, we went up to the attic, and Mark of the restaurant, and Mark says, whatever you do, don't touch the mirror. There was a paranormal group that was up here, and they turned the mirror around, and all of a sudden, all hell broke loose. There was all kinds of paranormal activity, like poltergeist activity, things moving around and stuff. So he says, don't move the mirror. I'm like, okay, I'm not moving the mirror. So, and of course, my friends are like, why didn't you move the mirror? And I said, well, he's a paying client. I'm going to do what he says. So, but we went up there, and I did put a static camera on this mirror, and the weirdest thing, no one was up there. And we're downstairs doing our investigation, and looking at the footage later on, you could see a black shadow comes up in the mirror and down. It's like it's pulsing. And there's no animals up there. There's nothing up there. And it was the creepiest thing. So I showed that to Mark. His jaw dropped. Repeatedly. It came up and down. Yeah, it was weird. So don't touch the mirror. So then we just recently did another video. We've got a whole bunch of videos coming out now in October. We're releasing a lot of videos that we've shot already, but we're releasing them on events and stuff for October. And this is one we did for Bucks County again, New Hope Winery, if you guys are familiar with that, right outside of New Hope. I've played at this place as a jazz musician. It's a great venue for music. It's phenomenal. So we did it, and I love working with forward-thinking people, in this day and age that know that this genre is going to bring people in. They want to experience these things. It's not a deterrent from anything. People are not going to want to go there. So Sandra, the owner, wanted us to do an investigation of the winery because there's been some really weird stuff going on there. She had an experience in what she calls the scary room, and so did we, which we didn't realize. We're doing a follow-up with Sandra and Tracy here, and we were talking about what we encountered in the scary room area. Well, we had 2 cameras set up, and I didn't realize that Tom's other camera was on this door, and it was on. I thought he didn't have it going on because he was filming us, but he had that going, and this is what we caught.
And we hear that big slam. And you thought I thought I had shot it and locked it. Well, turns out Tom had an extra camera down there, and this is what we caught.
Yeah, that wasn't down there.
Can you see that at all? Did you guys see that? It's hard to see. It's a door. Can you scrub that back again? It's It's a door. It's this door that shuts by itself. Right back there.
Yeah, that wasn't down there.
And right there again. So we're leaving, and as Dominic and Sandra are leaving, and Dominic thought he shut the door, but he didn't. So you could stop it right there. The magnetometer was going off the charts at that point because we went back to the door, hearing that big bang, and it was crazy. Magnetometer, if anybody knows what that is, magnetometer is used to detect electromagnetic energy in the earth. And sometimes it could detect spiritual energy, something that's not there. Now, you could hold that up to a light and it'll go like crazy. You could hold it up to wiring and it'll go crazy. But we've been in situations where we've been in the middle of a field and these things are going off the charts. So I don't know, it's something. And then Dominic sensing, the reason why Dominic is on a lot of these cases is he does a thing where he's giving us a preview of what we're in store for. So it's things that I don't have those feelings where, you go into a place and you're feeling those entities or those spirits. But he does, and we try to, look at that and try to figure out what's going on. But what happens is there's always something like another story starts unfolding. It's like that nobody knew about. And all of a sudden this other story happens. I don't know, I'm not sure if I put it on here or not, but we did an investigation of this place called New Spirit Old Soul. And it's an architectural salvage company, but they have a 1749 farmhouse on the property. Beautiful farmhouse. It's like so pristine. It's like almost original. And there's no Wi-Fi and no cable in there or anything. But there's people that live in there. And so Beth, the owner, has always felt this weird energy up in this one bedroom. And so we decided to go up and check it out. Well, Dominic goes up and says, okay, you guys can't come in here. And at first, we weren't able to even go into this room because he was having a conversation with this entity. And I know some people hearing this may be like, oh, really? But it's happened, because what happened next was, we're in the room together, and I have the magnetometer. I'm looking around the room trying to figure out if there's anything going on here. Beth is in the room with us, Dominic, me, and I think Jacob, Beth's boyfriend at the time. And we're in there, and Dominic's feeling all this energy in the room, and where I was, the magnetometer started going off the charts, and all of a sudden, there was a vase of flowers right here on the table that moved. And it just went like this. And I made sure it wasn't the floor or anything like that was moving it, but it just moved like that. And I said, look, I don't want to alarm anybody, but I think I just saw this vase of flowers move. Well, Beth is also a designer, and she goes, I did not put that there. I didn't put that there. That was not there. I know where everything is. As she's doing this, she's getting more and more agitated and getting to the point of like, she was hyperventilating. And it was like the spirit, we said she got bum rushed by the spirit. And that's really what happened. She got overwhelmed by the spirit, which we found out later is a woman by the name of Elizabeth that used to live in that house. And we did research later on. There was a woman, Elizabeth, that used to live there and also was married to, I guess, one of the oldest founding members of Boyertown, Pennsylvania, which is just above Quakertown in Bucks County, who had an affair with one of the workers on the property. And his son lived, but her son died. And that's why she's bound to that room looking through the window, because the son is buried on the property somewhere. So it's a weird story that nobody knew this at the time. But after we did the research and what Dominic was picking up, all of a sudden, then there was other people that came back and told us about this woman, Elizabeth. So it was a very weird situation, very weird connections there. And I think the last one I have here is, I think maybe the second to the last. We, believe it or not, we're going into some dark energy now. I don't tend to go there because I don't like to go into these areas, but we're doing a series for this owner of this haunted vampire museum. And it's called the Vampa Museum. It's in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. If you ever get down to Bucks County, you got to check it out. He's got over 700 vampire killing sets there from the 17 and 1800s. I'm like, why so many? And what was going on at that time? You know, it's like, so I always say there's a little bit of truth to the folklore. So we did an investigation. It's called Paranormal Pickers is the show. And it's I think we're changing the name or something pretty soon. But it's all about haunted objects, what he's been picking up in the museum, and some of the stuff has been absolutely crazy. So we're in the museum, and on the property, he has a big barn of beautiful antiques. I mean, if you saw these things, just beautiful things. And just one-of-a-kind items. So we're in the barn, and we're walking back to the barn because Julie and Dominic were being drawn back to this back part of the barn. And we're sitting there talking, and all of a sudden, we hear in the back, going like that. And it was over in this corner. And I'm like, I'm hungry, but that wasn't my stomach. So, and everybody heard it, and we heard it on video. And then Dominic says, that's the sound I heard in the museum, in this doll room. This weird doll room that Ed has in this museum. So if you guys, and you'll see this on my video, it's crazy. He's got a 5-foot Burmese doll, beautiful doll, but it has real hair. And there's other dolls and marionettes in there, and this crazy clown face. But Dominic's like, that's the same sound I heard in this room. And other people have heard it in that room as well. I was just doing a book signing there last weekend, and people got video of the same sound. So anyway, so I said, well, Dominic, let's go back. Let's do some video at the room So this was about a week later. We went back to the museum, and the guys in the video department will know, we did a half shot where we were talking to Dominic about what he heard, and he's standing in front of the doorway, and he's right here. And you probably can't hear it now because it's not that loud here, but you could hear it on my video. Anyway, you could definitely feel his reaction. But he's sitting there telling us what happened and what we heard in the barn and how he heard this and how he thought it was the batteries in the voice boxes of some of these dolls that could have been dying. But guess what? There's no voice boxes. There's no batteries in these things. They're all way too old. They're all antique dolls. There's no electronics in them. So with that, he goes, it sounded like the battery's dying, and this is what happened.
But if we're done, I heard that strange sound by the doll room. Ed and I were just out here, and I heard noises coming from over here. It sounded like almost like I don't want to say a growl, but it sounded like a voice box with the batteries dying. Oh, yeah.
So right there, that's when you heard, and that's what happened. It was just the same sound that we heard in the barn. I encourage you, I'm sorry that it's not that loud for you guys to hear here with all the ambient noise, but if you hear it, you'll for sure hear it, but it's the same kind of that's going on. You can play it again. I think I maybe even boosted it a little bit more.
I just heard that. All right, so look, we're doing some extra footage here, but guys, that was weird. I'm telling you, that is what I heard. But it sounded like a voice box with the batteries dying. Oh yeah! With the batteries dying. Oh yeah! Batteries dying. Oh yeah! Oh, I heard it too. I want to check to see if I got those.
So there was mass chaos that happened. I was the only calm one there. I had the camera going, but Dominic, he doesn't get rattled, but he was really rattled on this one. And Ed freaked out too, but he was okay. So we're trying to figure out what's going on here, and
Sorry, that just... No, I'm sorry, no.
you can hear him. He's like really freaked out.
Here, let me get you on camera. Yeah, man. So it's still on. Still recording? So we just heard the same sound that we heard in the barn. We just heard it here. I got goosebumps. Ed freaked out. Dom freaked out. I don't know what the hell that is, but that's the same thing that we heard in the barn.
Okay, you can hit it again. There, you stop it right there. 2 different locations, and I'll leave you with this story real quick. So this is something that happened to me, and I don't know if you guys have had this experience either. So being a jazz musician, I'm usually like, I like to pride myself in being early. Like I'm usually 15 minutes early to a gig, maybe a half hour early. But this particular night, I was running late. This is November of 1997, and I'm in Bucks County, and if you guys remember a restaurant called the Wycombe Inn in Bucks County, I used to play there. I had a steady Friday and Saturday night. Anyway, this was a Friday night, November of 1997. I'm going at a pretty good clip down this dark road, all woods, no houses, going down. All of a sudden, a deer runs out in front of me, and I hit it, and I felt terrible. It hit the front end of the car, and I slammed the brakes on, and we're going 60 feet together. And then I finally came to the side of the road, almost in the ditch, but I'm off to the side of the road, and I get out of the car. I'm looking down at this deer. I felt terrible. I'm like, and then out of the woods. Now I'm a piano player. Out of the woods behind me, a woman's voice says, "How's your hands?" And she looked just like that. And it was the weirdest thing. Like when someone's standing in front of your car, like with the headlights on you at night, and the headlights are on you, but someone's standing there, you know how it's like obscured a little bit? That's what she looked like. What got me was she reached down and picked this 200-pound plus deer up by the ear just dragged it off the road like it was nothing, like it was light as a feather. And then she said, you better get off the road and get in your car, get out of here. And I did. I didn't say anything. I was like stunned. So I went to the gig and I told the guys, and they were freaked out, and I was freaked out, and I was like, what just happened? So I went back the next day, and even going back that night, looking around, nothing there, but went back the next day, no deer, and I thought maybe there was a house back there. There was somebody in the woods that spooked this deer out, and that's how I hit it. No houses, all woods, and it was the craziest thing. There's houses now since it's been built up since then. But it was the weirdest thing. And I look at her like she was my guardian angel. But my father had an experience with this lady in white, which we found out later, there is a lady in white that's been seen in Bucks County, which I didn't realize at the time. And my father had this experience in probably the mid-'70s. And look, it was the '70s. My dad was a little bit of a partier, but he swears he was stone sober this night. And he came home, it was about 2 o'clock in the morning, and we used to live across the street from the Delaware River in a town called Upper Black Eddy, if you guys are familiar with that area. It's Upper Bucks County. So he's sitting on the porch, and he had a habit of coming home late, but he was cooking a steak he had at the time, in this little hibachi. And he's sitting there cooking the steak, and he's like looking out, it's night, it's 2 in the morning, and he's looking at the river, and he's seeing something white floating down the river. And he's like, and as his eyes adjusted, he's seeing this woman floating down the river. And it's about a quarter of a mile away. And he's trying to figure out what it is. All of a sudden, she turns to him. And when she turned from like a quarter of a mile away, he said her face came right up to his. And then turned away and went back and started. And when she was going down the river, she was saying, I'm going home. I'm going home. And you could hear these words echo through the valley. Now, on his deathbed 2 years ago, I said, Dad, did that really happen? And I've known about this for years, all my life. He's like, that really happened. I swear that really happened. So it was amazing. So he had his own encounter with this lady in white. So I don't know if there's a connection there or not, but it was crazy. So that's that you have it, folks. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. You could hit that. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I have books for sale if anybody wants. I'm doing some signings and would love for you to take me home with you. But again, guys, thank you so much. And I think there's one more thing on here. And you can find me at ericmintelinvestigates.org and on YouTube at Eric Mintel Investigates. And we are on several different cable channels and like a lot of community stations, Manhattan Neighborhood Network and up in the Lehigh Valley, but we're working on more stations all the time. But immediately you could see a lot of our videos on YouTube. But thanks again, guys. Really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Gabe. Thank you.